This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Still waiting in line? Again? That's time you'll never get back. Save time and money with Stamps.com. Over 4 million businesses have skipped the line with Stamps.com. Join them to save up to 90% off carrier rates from your computer or phone right now. Print postage for certified mail, registered mail, and packages in seconds. Then schedule a pickup right from your home or office. For a limited time, go to Stamps.com and use code PODCAST for a free welcome gift. Taxes and fees apply.
All big changes start with a swift kick in the ass.
Welcome to another episode of A Swift Kick in the Ass. I'm your host, John Curran. With me today, I have Jermaine Ee. Now, most of us have been thinking and living for a future that we've not really actually ever defined. It's been defined for us in a lot of cases. You know, we get up every day, we do our daily grind. We postpone things. We keep telling ourselves, one day, someday, and that one day doesn't come. And then one day we look up and we realize we've traded years of our lives for a story that, wasn't really even ours. And we start to wake up. Today we have Jermaine Ee, who has spent his entire life studying this gap between the life that we think we're building and the one that we're actually living. And Jermaine, welcome to the show. I like to kind of start out the show with it's called Swift Kick in the Ass. So I like to start out with something jolting. So, what started you on this path? What was the kick in the ass that started moving you in this positive direction?
I'm not sure if I would call it positive, but
Okay.
I started having these conversations with my parents about retirement. And one thing led to another. I started building something for my mom to try to give her more clarity about her finances, about her dreams and bucket lists and things like that. And somewhere along the journey, very grateful that I have that start of the journey with my mom, but my mom passed away 7 months ago.
Oh,
So, if, life, I guess death
yeah.
is a kick in the ass. But but I was already on this journey, and I think having my mom suddenly pass away, it's like sending me on this mission,
So
and that's the mission that I'm on.
so you're on this mission before your mom passed, and now you're even more kind of driven and passionate about what you're doing.
I think I was already driven and
Okay.
passionate. I think with her passing, it gave me like another gear, right? Just like a little
Okay.
boost. And so, yeah, when times are tough, sometimes we have days where 10 days in a row and we don't have a new paid user, for example. And I'm looking at my dashboards and thinking, what's going on with marketing, what's going on with stuff, and I have to just remind myself that this is just a conversation that I have with my mom that turned into something. And it's the greatest gift that I never asked for from her, to give me like a really strong founder story.
Yeah. So you had some difficult conversations with your parents, right? And so you're trying to help your mom, you said, live out her dreams and kind of understand finances. Is that right? And so you're using AI to do that?
Yeah, I'll take us even way back to,
Okay.
a slightly more human experience. During COVID, a lot of people, me included, thinking about, what matters, who matters, why do we do all of this, living in this difficult world or stressful world. And I was living in New York at the time, and I'd taken for granted that I can always just fly back to see my parents in LA, where I
Mm,
am today.
okay.
And I never thought about it, not even twice, that
Nobody
like,
did.
oh,
Yeah.
maybe it's difficult to travel at some point. And during COVID, I didn't know how the virus was going to be. I really didn't know anything about that. So I didn't want to bring something home. So I would always do the recommended quarantine. It became difficult to go home to see my parents. And it was the first time that I really thought, like, you know, if I if what I care about the most is to be around them, why am I living in New York? I moved to New York to chase a dream. If you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a very ambitious and a path that I wanted to go on. Um, yeah, sometime in July of 2020, I was sitting at home and I was just on my computer working remotely, and my mom was there, my dad was there, my sister, everybody was home. And I looked around and I thought, this is what I want, right? I just want to just be able to hang out, right? We're all
So
building
you
our own.
were in New York when this happened and everyone was remote when you saw this?
Well, so everything went remote during
Yeah, so
COVID.
you were all remote and this is when you had this kind of revelation that this is what it's
Yeah.
all about, right? Family and being
Well,
together.
yeah, I mean, I guess I always knew, but it doesn't click, right? It's like
Yeah.
unless
So
something happens, it doesn't click.
so I was reading watching some of your other interviews and such, and you were talking about how you're Malaysian, but you're American, first of all. In fact, your name comes from the Jacksons. And you didn't want to be your parents didn't want to name you after the star, but after you're named after Michael's older brother. And what's more American than that? And I was thinking about that because so I know that you're into legacy and really thinking about what you leave behind and how you live your life and what you leave behind in that and the meaning of your work. So I relate to all of that. But when I was growing up, my name is actually I'm a legacy. My name's been handed down for over 200 years. Um, and so and in fact handed off to my son. So I can relate. I think you actually spoke and said I'm when I have a son, I'm gonna name him the most American name. And so I was thinking about it, I was like, you are unquestionably American, but you have a Malaysian background and a Malaysian heritage. For me, it's Irish mostly, but it's stretched out over, a longer period of time. My parents, my ancestors have been they'd been in the country and in and out probably before Revolutionary War. So I kind of relate to. I was always raised with being proud of my heritage and proud of who came before me and actually brought the family to like wherever they were then. Um, and you have that as well. You're proud of who you are, where you've come from, and your life experience. I mean, living in New York, living in Malaysia, you spent some time in Malaysia
I
as
spent a
a
decade in Malaysia, yeah, as a child.
yeah, and in LA, which is almost like another country in itself. I love LA. I mean, I love to visit. It's crazy. The highways are too crazy for me. But anyhow, you have a worldwide perspective and um and an important, legacy and no. So I guess I understand kind of where you are because I think that you're much younger than I am. I imagine. Um, unless you really age well. But to be that young and to have your life, I mean, to think about the end of life, honestly, I think it helps you live. I had a co-host on this podcast when we first started, Tommy, who was my childhood friend, and he died of brain cancer about 6 years ago. And that too, my life has been shaped by grief and I mean, we started the podcast because my father died of ALS, and my friend and I were both very influenced. So family is important. And so glad to see that, you recognize that and then are actually bringing that to other people who also value family and friends and creating a life. So talk to me about how you help other people, you know, create a life or plan.
Well, a part of it is to come onto podcasts and offer my perspective, my
Okay.
stories. What I realize, having done about 50 podcasts so far, and I just started this journey about 6 months ago, is the fact is, I sometimes get tired of my own voice and my own story, but I got to remind myself, and sometimes I get reminded with some messages that, that one story that I've told 10,000 times in my head, at least, maybe like 100 times in reality, it hits differently at different times.
Yeah.
And I have to keep reminding myself that because, I've told that specific Jermaine Jackson name story about 5 times. I can kind of keep track of
It's
that
a
because
good one. Yeah.
I change the story a little bit just to see how it lands, and so I've been workshopping it, and it's cool that you heard it. So yeah, so the podcasting, the storytelling is just a way to remind myself, the most human thing. It's better to be relatable than to be impressive, right? I think I can probably talk about a lot of things that I've done, in a different perspective that could seem really impressive. But at the end of the day, I think we all just want to have the same few feelings, like that feeling of belonging, the feeling of not
Hmm.
regretting, the feeling that maybe some sense of control over how we spend our time or what we spend our mind thinking about, obsessing over. So yeah, I actually just came back from San Francisco an hour ago, helping my sister move home to LA, and in my 6 hour drive down to LA, I was just thinking a lot about this mission that I'm on with AirLight, which I will answer your question. I've built an app to help families of folks like my mom, really, who for her whole life thought that estate planning wasn't for her because it's too complicated, it's too expensive, she doesn't have enough, that it's a
Hmm.
tax kind of a tax optimization thing. But that conversation I have with my mom about her retirement is precisely what I'm trying to solve, which is she lacked clarity as to what she has. And that lack of clarity
Hmm.
in terms of how her 401k translates to the rest of her life is what's keeping her living to the max. That feeling, that autopilot, that I got to accumulate more, I got to save more
Hmm.
money, I got to keep working
Yeah.
hard, don't spend so much, and just in case my kids need something. That feeling is what's keeping her from checking off all her bucket lists. And that's where AirLight started.
So she was a saver, I take it. Is that right?
Well, being an immigrant who, went to Oklahoma in the late 70s and started not speaking English, cleaning homes, serving, cleaning dishes, working in restaurants, it's like coded into her brain,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes.
it's just a gear that she doesn't know how to get out of.
So my father was a product of the Great Depression. So he had much of the same mentality. I mean, I thought he lived, I thought he was Cuban because he would save like car parts, used car parts and stuff like that. Just thinking he could use anything he thought he might be able to use in the future, he'd put it aside so he wouldn't have to spend money on it.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's such a endearing trait, right? It comes
no,
from
it is.
it's such a pure place, right?
You're right,
And it's amazing.
but it comes to a point, and my mom is 93, and she also has a saver's mentality as well, um, which is great, but she is 93 years old, and she should be living the best life possible. And honestly, she really does. I mean, but it's it's not from lavish, travel or anything like that. It's being able to live in her own home, and she still manages commercial business properties that she
Wow.
has. At 93, she's collecting rent from like these you know, mechanic guy from a garage. These and these guys are all like, scared of her, but keeps her keeps her mind in act, but that she's living her dream.
That's
Um,
incredible. Wow. What a blessing to
it re
be,
yeah,
yeah, to be spending life like that, you know, in
yeah,
the 90s. Gosh.
yeah.
I
And my dad passed in 2013 from ALS, but he was over, I think he was 82 when he died. So he also lived a good long life, and was the reason why we started this podcast about really living on your terms, which is a lot very closely related, I think, to what you're talking about. And that is really, there comes a time to when you've done all this saving, you've lived your life, you've had this dream in your head. Now it's time to shift gears and open up the wallet and spend some of that money, and let yourself, do that. Um,
I
you know,
forgot where I heard this, but it was something along the lines of we often overestimate the amount of life we can live when we're 70, 80, 90. I think a lot of like my grandma is 93. So, I think about her life, and she's a saver too. She talks about saving. She talks about making sure you take a piece of your paycheck and put it aside. And I look at her life now. She has dementia, so she needs a
mm,
little bit of help. But
yes,
she just it's impossible for her to spend a lot aside from giving it to her grandkids. But
right. Mm,
on a day-to-day basis, her activities now costs nothing. And so that's something I was trying to convince my mom as well, that as you get older, she was 63 at the time, like 7 months ago.
oh,
And I was trying to tell her, like, hey, look, now you can still walk up a flight of stairs, in some church in Italy or something, right? But in 10, 15, 20 years, you may not be able to or may not want to do
right.
that. And your ability to spend money declines as you age. And so there is an optimal point at 60, maybe, when your kids are adults. And I don't have kids yet. So it's like right at the point where I'm able to
I'm
just
50,
travel with them.
I'm 59.
You you
So I'm
look
right
great.
there. Thank
We're
you.
both, yeah. Yeah, and so that's the conversation I have with her. And I remember her, like, we went to Mexico City together,
That's great.
and I told her, like, the reason why people here are so happy, the Latin culture generally, Spanish speaking language, Portuguese speaking language. I told her, like, they have really this deep understanding of the concept of contentment, right? Just to be content. And I think that's something we're really bad at as Americans, right? We're always trying to keep up the Joneses, and just, I mean,
Yeah.
I speak for myself. I subconsciously think about that all the time too. So I was having this conversation with her, and I was like, hey, what is the line where you feel content? Like, what do you need to have to feel content? And I think it's not that she was chasing this goalpost. I think it's more like she didn't really know where she was at, as well as where the line of where enough was. So
Yeah.
so my goal was just to give her that clarity.
I think it's having security, and also recognizing that money is a tool that we use that creates choices for us, because we don't really know what we're up against. And if you have money, that gives you options that if you don't have money, you don't have the options. And I mean, at least that's what I've learned from my parents. And that's why you put money aside. That's why, you scrimp or you save, um, so that, and that's why you have an emergency fund, and not a credit card as emergency fund, cash.
Or this. I hope
Yeah.
everything's going to be okay.
Oh God.
Oh, please, let's hold our
No, no,
breath.
and I've you know what, I've been there. Married kind of late in life, but my wife is 13 years younger than I am, so I guess it balances out. I mean, been married 25 years, have three kids, so I'm farther down. So I'll just maybe some of my journey will help you along the way because I that's what I think is so cool about these podcasts is I get to meet so many different interesting people. I get to be a part of their journey and get to hear their story. And it's super cool. You are inspired and and carried like you I lost my dad, even though I lost my dad in 2013. He's with me each and every day. I mean, he's a part of me really that I want like he'll be a part of me whether I like it or not. Because that's my dad. I learned a lot of what not to do from my dad as much as what to do. Love them dearly. But that's kind of what I've had to do, come to grips with in dealing with my own, my own self. And you're dealing with self-awareness as well. It's tough when you lose a parent, and it sounds like you lost yours really quickly, and young. I mean, 60 years old is, you think you have more time and you just don't. Sometimes. Um, my friend who died of brain cancer, um, he was 50 and in perfect shape. He was running flights of stairs, 5 flights of stairs, just about every day. And that's when he noticed, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong. I'm like, I'm almost stumbling on some of the steps. I'm not as agile as I was. I'm tiring. And it happened pretty fast. So yes, you just never know. And it's could that could make you sad, or it could motivate you to live because some people don't get the chance, but we do, and we can live for them. Is that's actually how I kind of been dealing with it all my life. Because I've had close friends die. So I hope that helps. And
I
I'm sorry to hear that's that losing your parents is something all of us must face one day. Uh,
I,
but
I feel generally very lucky. You know, I if I have a problem in my life, I close my eyes. I can just imagine exactly what my mom would say to me. So we're really, really close. So
that's
I can
awesome.
pretty much tell exactly how she would react. Not only to say to me, I'll know what she would say that I would disagree with and that I would agree with. And like I can just picture the entire conversation. And I've stress tested this with my siblings. There's four of us, and we're pretty much
Okay.
aligned. And so we're able to actually kind of yeah. My mom's like everywhere in my life still. You know, I'm still in the same office space that we share. So our neighbors, they know us. You know, the security guard knows my mom, and so yeah, it's nice to still be in this ecosystem. I think now, you know, when I have a really stressful day, I keep reminding myself that number one, I'm building something that I feel very strongly positively towards. Like it's a
Hmm.
dream to be able to build something that can help others, based on my lived experience. But on the other hand, it's also I'm just trying to live life to the fullest, right? Like I today is the 3rd of April.
Yeah.
I don't know when this will come out, but in 1 month, I'm on a plane to Florence, Italy to have Mother's Day with my girlfriend's mom and her. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, gosh, I have like 30 days to get all these things done. It's very stressful, but I wouldn't want it any other way. You
Right.
know, it's just I want to live both ends to the maximum, even though I'm tired sometimes.
You know what? My great aunt had a saying, you could sleep when you're dead.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, then you're sleeping for a long time. So get up and do those things. I think that's amazing. I've been married 25 years and I want to travel, but I those are one of the things I've kind of put off. I've traveled more within the States and driving actually. So like not just flying across, but actually experiencing like the United States, where the rubber meets the road, where the the bushes that I forget what it the things
I
that
can't help you there.
the bushes that come across the
Tumbleweeds.
yeah,
The
tumbleweeds.
tumbleweeds.
The
Yep.
tumbleweeds have hit my car, come out of nowhere. It's like I've been in the remote parts of the country, but it's awesome. One of those times, one of those days I want to travel, but it's about designing your life and creating a life for yourself that you, like you said, living with no regrets, and taking those opportunities to do those things while you can, while you are physically, I think there's a lot to be said about traveling at a younger age, and traveling whenever you can, whenever possible, at whatever age, because you just never know, and you never know when you're going to be limited, and you never know when you'll have the opportunity again. So I think I commend you. I think that's great, and that's pretty serious to meet your girlfriend's mother in Italy.
Yeah. I mean I've met her a few times and we try to do trips and make
Okay,
memories, just
so you've been with her for a while then.
yeah, it's we're going on 4 years now.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, and we were very clear, we both want kids, but we also recognize that this is maybe the last few years of our lives where we can travel without thinking about kids. So we want to make sure we check off some places like that. We've actually been to 26 or 27 countries together.
that's awesome.
And yeah, some places are like the middle of nowhere in Nepal. We actually flew out to the birthplace of Buddha. And it's a dump, I will say. It is it's not the nicest place, but very powerful, right? You just
Yes.
imagine 5,000 years ago, where the storyteller essentially started talking about these theories of life and meditate on them. And so, yeah, these are places that are tougher to bring kids to. And so we've made a conscious effort to go to these places before we have to, raise kids and be more settled.
No, you know what? I think that's what you need to do. Because like I said, you might not get the opportunity as well. And so I kind of had those plans as well. Now I married later on in life. I think I was 32 when I got married. How old was it? Yeah, 34. So I guess I was around. But so I got but so um I thought I would travel more, but I didn't. I ended up my wife, we found out that she was going to have a limited window on, how long she could have children. And we're like, we know we can have children this year, but maybe not next year. So it was like, so we decided, to have children after like 2 years of marriage. So kind of changes things, but I don't regret that at all. And it is life. We've created something bigger than ourselves. I think that's also probably something we share, because you're creating something bigger than yourself. And like you said, that the spirit of your mom is in that work. Uh, I love it. I have a similar relationship with my dad. Even he's been gone for such a long time, but he's so close to me. Um, and I honestly see signs too. I mean, not that I'm like not. I know it sounds kind of weird sometimes. But I do believe that there's something going on that's bigger than all of us, and there are things that we just can't explain. But there's this dragonfly that keeps coming into my life at certain times, and I swear it's my dad, coming in to pop in for a visit. So. I hope that you have something like that with your mom to remind you that, her spirit's well and alive in what you do, and you have your family there too as well to,
Hmm.
you know, do this.
Yeah. I mean, wherever, whatever conversations she had with me while I was building out the beginning of my app, informed kind of the direction of who I'm serving, basically. I just recall this one conversation she told me that her facial lady
Hmm.
um just was so intimidated by the idea of going to an attorney
Hmm.
and the idea that she have to have this conversation in her third language. I think English is probably her third language. And I think about all the people like that in the world, in the United States at least, that I can serve because these are my mom's friends, right? And so
Yeah.
I think she gave me so much insight as to how what I'm building will interact with people. Yeah, it definitely lives with me. I'm editing a video right now. It was the first time, and it's not out yet. I don't know. I'm struggling to go through the footage, to be honest.
Okay.
But it's the time a year ago we went to Oklahoma and we visited the places that they lived and worked and you know hung out.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it's lovely because it also gives me the perspective as to where this journey all started, at least in the United States, and how humbling it was. Sometimes I think about my problems and it's just kind of funny. It's like my problems are all pretty silly. They're valid, they're all valid
Right, right,
problems,
right.
but they're still like in the grand scheme of things, I'm not the first person in the entire history of the universe who's going through a oil crisis, or the fact that my cost per acquisition per user is so
Yeah.
high right now. So it's like I'm not it kind of just gives me all this perspective as to like, you know what? I'm working on something that I care about. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing, even though it's hard. And I think it kind of makes being hard probably makes it worth building for me
Probably
because I feel
gets,
like if
yeah.
it's a little too easy, maybe I'll just be like, maybe it's not that big of a deal if it's so easy.
Yeah, if you think it's not easy, then it really isn't going to be easy for other people because it probably is easier for you. And you're not giving yourself enough credit with that because I think a lot of people don't know how to go about it. And you're right. It's there's a lot to think of. I know that my wife and I we did we did estate planning and such, went to an attorney to do that. And it was really only because we felt the need to do it because of our kids. And if something was to happen, I think we're going to go on a trip or something like on an airplane, and we're like, oh, if something happens, we have to have this done. But to make it easier, make it online, that's good. I mean, not a lot of people really want to think about end of life stuff, and they think, oh, I have time to do this. But it does weigh on you. And if something happens, you may not have the time. Um, for me, it was very freeing, honestly. It was like, you know what? It was a weight off of me. I knew things would be handled the way I wanted to be handled. And honestly,
So
till my dad died, like I didn't even know how I wanted things to be handled, quite honestly. And I think I was probably about 50 or not even 50 then. So, I mean, even at that age, I was not thinking about death. But when it hits close to home like that, it does make you think about about yourself and about your life and going forward. And I'm sorry, I probably keep interrupting you.
no, no, I mean it's great that you got it done. I think the challenge I have when I started this, I thought people don't have an estate plan because of lack of resources, like no
Hmm.
money or something, right? You've or they feel like they don't have enough to protect. Maybe that's one of the top reasons why people don't have it. But we have users who are definitely they definitely have money. They can definitely afford an attorney at the very least. And still, like I reach out to some users and they don't really want to share. But
Hmm.
one did, and he said, I just don't want to talk to another human. Like I don't want to at 56 years old admit to another human that I don't know what an executor is. And it
Okay, that
it
makes
kind of blew my
sense.
mind. Honestly, I thought, gosh, you have a home and two kids and all that, and it, I thought it was just like logical to get it done. But people have all sorts of reasons, and then you layer in the generational difference, the religious reasons, the cultural preconceived notions of talking about death means manifesting it. Maybe there's all these
Mm.
things, uh,
Is that a
and
lot in in the Asian culture?
in the Asian culture is pretty fragmented. So
Okay.
I think the Japanese don't talk about death. I'm Chinese
Okay.
Malaysian.
Okay.
I have no idea actually. I should probably find out about this. I know if you're Catholic, you don't talk about death at home. At least if you're Spanish
Oh,
speaking. That's what I
that's
realized.
interesting. Because I'm not a practicing Catholic, but I was raised Catholic, and yeah, we didn't really talk about death. In fact, you know, death. I have an early memory. I have early memories of death. I had to go to a funeral when I was a kid, and went to an open casket, and freaked me out.
Yeah.
About. I mean, that- yeah, that creeped me out. It took a long time for me to deal with it, but you have to face those fears. And the fact is that we're all going to die. But the truth is that we're going to survive everything until we don't.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
you
And
know, we're going to survive. I mean, it's just that's the way it is. And then if we don't survive, it won't matter. It won't matter then. So you should take those steps and make sure, especially if you have a family or you have assets, or maybe you want things to be handled a certain way. It's
yeah, our honestly, our main competitor isn't a lawyer or another app or whatever's out there. There's free resources. If you're listening to this and you want to get your will done for free, freewill.com or .org, it's free and they're very good. Our main competitor is actually just people saying, "I'll do it later. I'll do it next week or the weekend after," or those who start but then they get to page 5 and they're like, I'm going to do it next week. So I think that is our biggest competitor. It's inaction and avoidance probably.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I really approached this like I didn't set out this to create a estate planning app. Like in fact, legal tech is difficult. There's a pretty high chance at some point I'll be sued for this app. I'm just playing in the legal space, a very litigious country. So we're doing everything we can. My legal
Yeah.
bills are super high because all the states have different rules about estate planning, and so we have to get it indexed
Yes.
properly. We got to make sure what we produce is good. And to this date, we're only in 5 states, with two
Okay.
more coming very soon. And it's the same. It's expensive, it's slow, and we're going through that so that our users don't have to do that. But all that legal stuff aside, I'm the kind of weird person that wrote my own eulogy, right? I've had my own eulogy written probably every 4 years or so.
That is so
There's
powerful.
there is not a reason for it, to be honest.
There's a
I
very
just get into
good
it.
there's a
It's a good
very good
practice.
reason for it. I believe in that. Have you ever read the book The Road Less Traveled?
I've heard of this.
Dr. Scott Peck? I think is yeah.
No,
So
I don't think so.
he opens up the road less traveled with a story. And that story is that you're at a funeral and you're asked to give the eulogy and you don't know who it is until you walk up to the casket and you see that it's you. And what would you want said about yourself at your own funeral? So when you were just saying you've written your own eulogy, that tells me you know what you value in life. Most people don't say, oh, he drove this really fancy car. It could go really fast. No, they're not going to talk about your car, or they might call you a snappy dresser, I guess. I don't know. That,
Yeah,
if that
I think
defines your character, but it's
it
so much more than just, it's not you lived in a big house or a little house, or it doesn't matter. It's how you treated people and what you meant to them. And I plan on leaving a ocean of tears behind when I die, because that means people care about you. You know,
it's
it,
also fascinating to see how this evolved because I've written it 3 times now. So I just dug up my old journals and the pool of people whose opinion I care about shrunk each time.
okay, interesting.
So I used to have this wedding. I have an Excel sheet with the folks I want to invite to my wedding, right?
Okay.
And these are just friends and mentors, and I think the list was like 300 something in the beginning. This is excluding family. This is
Okay.
just like
Wow.
people that have people that I have a good feeling about. And then as time goes on, life gets busy. I think the list is probably down to 50 now, and it's still a pretty big list. So I think it's also fascinating to see as you grow older. So I'm 34 now.
Mhm.
The first one was drafted about 15 years ago,
Wow.
right when I graduated university. And yeah, I, I think it's cool to see how I evolved in
You
not
know,
caring
that's
about a
when
lot
I
of
learned
opinions.
about, that's when I read The Road Less Traveled, and I did that for myself, was back when I was in university as well. And so I think that's great. I think it sets, I don't know, for me, it just creates an image in your mind about it helps you solidify what you want out of life. And subconsciously, I think your brain starts making decisions for you that lead you in those different directions. I mean, to have traveled as much as you have, and such, you've obviously you have that all in mind, because those things just don't happen, by luck. You have to take certain steps and actions in order to just get one trip down, and you have dozens of trips. So my hat's off to you for doing that and doing it so young, really. I mean, that's fantastic. And they have meaning as well. I mean, going to Italy will be what a fantastic trip that will be.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mine's
I
going down to my in-laws for Christmas. No, it's not, actually my trips are like going up to DC for my friend's 60th birthday party. And, I have much of the same kind of desires. I'm getting closer to retirement now, and I work a corporate gig during the day, but I do this podcast kind of as a passion project, as I have for, last 12 years, and it's helped me find myself, and I think it helps others in the process. But I'm thinking about retirement now, and I'm tired of the 9 to 5. I don't exact, I've got a great job. I really can't complain. Um, and allows me to do other things creatively. So I love it. I have a great life, but I'm looking to transition too and adapt and change. And my kids are getting older. I'll look forward to grandkids and, all these different things. That's what life is all about. So to plan these things out, you have a better chance of actually making them happen. Because once you start to realize that the clock is ticking, um, you will start making decisions based on that pressure that you feel. And you'll realize, you know what, if I don't do this now, I might as well just forget about it. So my hat's off to you for taking such initiative. And it sounds like, you're off the ground and you're moving, and I hope you help a lot of people in the process.
That's the goal. That's the journey I'm on. I think, there's this in a perfect world, we would work, we would live, and we would get to the end of our life having worked as much as we needed to live as much as we can, right? I think if we know when our life ends. And I'm 34, so most of my friends are now golden handcuffed to a
Yes.
probably a really good job. And I look at them and sometimes I hear these conversations of like how they feel underlived, even though they're in a great financial position. And I'm not in a great financial position relative to, let's say, my five close friends. But at the same time, they all look at me and think, gosh, you traveled the world. And so
Right.
it's like that balance that only you can answer, right? It's
That's
like
very
only
true.
you can be content with the journey that you've been in or been on. And I think the grass is certainly always greener on the other side if you're just looking to compare. But I do try to remind myself, it's not a comparison. We're all on different journeys. And as
Yes.
as you say, you never know when when's your last day. So
Yeah, and you know what's possible for one person too might not be possible for another person. I mean, I think there is balance. There is some type of balance out there, but that doesn't mean that you get everything just because you want it. Um, some dreams are more real than others. And that's where I think the planning comes in and helps you get more focused to get the things that you really want. Uh, when my friend Tommy was dying, I had to kind of do a self-assessment to realize what are these things what are my dreams, and what can I achieve, and what really doesn't matter anymore. What's not no longer serving me really is what I asked myself, and had to cast those things aside. And it's okay. It's like I used to have a Corvette before I met well, actually when I met my wife, I had a Corvette, and it was an awesome car and I loved that car. But, gas started to be like 78 cents a gallon. It was too much. You know, I I had to get rid of it, and I regretted it ever since. Um, but the truth of the matter is that my Suburban fits my life much better. I can pull my boat, I can take my dogs and my friends and family. You know, that Corvette, I'm not going to get any use out of it. It, it. it just doesn't fit my life anymore. So I think people need to do kind of go through a similar type of process and really question, think about what you're dreaming, and is that really what you want? And that's a question. That's a hard question to answer for someone, for some things.
and it's probably evolving all the time too. As you get new inputs, new relationships, priorities change. But I think the
Yes.
core of it is, I guess the core is just like the fact that life is always changing and you're always growing, like it or not.
Yeah.
And the Corvette and the Suburban gets just about the same miles per gallon though. So,
But
so I don't know if you saved a lot there.
the thrills per mile were not the same.
Yeah, the torque isn't quite there.
But no, I get you. It's so interesting because here I am, I'm 59, so I've got some years on you, but um, I remember what it was like to be to be 34, and you've accomplished quite a lot actually for your age, and have wisdom, which is practical knowledge, um, that you're applying to your life that I think is way above your age. I mean, that's a good thing. That's a compliment. That's
Yeah, it's funny because I get that and I hear that, and most of me, I'm just trying to like live up to. I'm just trying to close the gap between what I wrote in my eulogy of who I want to be and like the realities of every day. For example, I'm so bad at this. Like I just went on a road trip with my girlfriend to the Grand Canyon, and I told myself I would take 5 days off and
okay.
not think about work. Day one, great. Day two, great. I'm very present, taking pictures, seeing nature. Day three creeps in, and I'm like, I'm really behind on emails.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
really behind, and
Yes.
I'm so irritable. It was frustrating, and and that's something that I'm working on. That's the hardest thing about what I'm navigating through myself right now is just to be okay with shutting off the business brain. And I have great reasons to be feeling that way. There's a
Of
payroll.
course. Yes.
Every day
Oh,
that I'm living, I'm burning cash, and so any day that I'm not building, I'm burning cash, and all of those are valid. But at the same time, it's just like eulogy, ideal, and reality. That delta. I'm just trying to. I don't know how this shape is, but I'm just trying to close that
yeah.
delta, and that is what I'm mostly focused on every day. Not. But
Do
yeah,
you
yeah,
you mentioned Buddha, Nepal and Buddhism. Do you meditate?
I try. I'm not very good at it, but I do my version of meditation,
And
which
there's not
is
honestly, there's no wrong way to meditate. So you're
yeah,
doing it right.
yeah. I try to get myself to some flow states faster. I used to swim a lot more, so when I'm in the
Okay.
pool,
Yeah, that's a form
that's
of
a
meditation.
mhm. Yeah. I've tried a bunch of different forms of meditation. Have you heard of this thing called the Vipassana?
Is that the breathing?
Yeah, it's a breathing thing. It's 10 days, no talking, 14 hours a day of observing your breath, essentially. If someone's listening to
Wow.
this, uh, I have to say I failed. I left day three. My girlfriend finished 10 days, silent retreat, no talking, no communicating, no eye contact. Wake up at 4:30 in the morning and you meditate 14 hours a day and go to sleep. That's it. You get some instructions. People feed you. You don't have to cook. And it's free. You can only donate to this program when you complete it. So it's
Oh
free
my.
to do this. It's all over the world. And day three, I left. Um, the official excuse is I was jet lagged and I had food poisoning, but the truth is I mentally could not quiet my brain, and I had to like find alternate ways to do that. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I think it's very helpful. It is helpful for what I'm doing, which is like the small meditations that I get to do.
Yeah, no, that's it. Really interesting. I found meditation back when Tommy was when he was dying, and my friend suggested it because nothing else was really working, and I'm so thankful for that. But in my way, I mean, it started out as chair, you know, doing chair meditation, and then now I mean, I'm got my little cushion, and I sit out there, and I'm doing that. When Tommy was sick, I was doing it in the mornings and at night. And it's really, honestly, it's become a part of my life. Um, don't know where I would be without it. But, you know, I didn't meditate at 34. And I think back, if I would have and gain that focus and that grounding, you're absolutely right. You know, bring your bring your challenges internal, and look to the internal sources rather than these external sources that they're going to keep being there. You really can't do, you can only do so much for those
Yeah.
external, but you're going internal. That's going to give you so much clarity, so much calmness, I think. Um,
What helped me a lot with grief is I think somewhere in between Buddhism and Stoicism. Just
yeah.
nothing happens for a reason. It happens. There's I think I stopped trying to answer the question of why and why now for my mom. It took
Yeah.
me a few months. I think I was very short-tempered for a few months. And yeah, maybe like 100 days in, something hit me, and I realized probably my mom's definitely Buddhist. She like prays and meditates and all that. But yeah, this grief thing is very interesting. But I think the way I've kind of explained it to my therapist is I'm going through this process. I call it the purposeful grief. You know,
Yeah.
I've taken that grief and given it a purpose. I'm building something. It requires focus. It requires intensity. But sometimes it still hits me, and but it's like kind of purposeful. Like I'm
It's
channeling that into something.
transformational grief.
Mm,
You're turning it into
yeah.
something powerful. You're transforming. I actually, so I interviewed, I have a really good episode. I'm forgetting the doctor's name. She is a expert in uh, Thanos, Thanism. Wait, no, Thanology, the study of death, dying, and grieving. And she's one of the nation's experts in it. And she talks about it. It might be really good for you to see. I just did it. It's 6 months ago or something like that. Uh, tremendous, tremendous insight that might help you deal with it because yeah, everyone deals with grief differently, and and I don't know. I think we all have to deal with grief in one way or another. But it can hold you back, or it can also propel you, and you're turning that into that energy. You're turning into something very positive, and that's rare, honestly, to be able to transform, you know, things that are negative into positive. And you're out there, and you're doing all these different podcasts. You said 50 different podcasts. That too is putting all that positive energy out there. I'm sure it's cathartic for you as well. I mean, this podcast, I'd be the first to admit, um, it helps me choose my guests, like where I am in my life. And it's
Mhm.
so interesting, like the people that I need in my life are coming in just at the right times through this show. So I'm going to ask, and I tell the listeners each and every time, if you have a good story to tell, if you've got your ass kicked and you've turned it into something positive, reach out to me, John at a swiftkickinass.com. I want to hear your story. Because I find it very inspirational and I know that others do as well. Um, I think we're probably running out of time because we've been on, it's time flew by, honestly. Um, so we should probably wrap this up. Do we have like anything you want to take, like you want the listeners to take away or like any,
No, I think we touched on a bunch of things. These are the topics that I'm out here talking about. Even if you don't ever check out my app, which is called AirLight, s- write your eulogy or make it even less. Just journal on how would you like to be remembered, or what would you like someone to say when you're not in the room about you,
hmm,
right? Like that's a great journal. And also maybe ask yourself if you're living up to that and what adjustments you got to make. I tell myself I want to be a very present brother to my siblings. It's not why, but it's part of the journey of me helping my sister move home. I drove up there, rented a van, and packed stuff for her. I mean, I genuinely enjoy it just
yeah,
to be around. But I think it's also my practice of like when I'm in this process, it's a Friday and I have things to do, but I'm also just trying to remind myself that I'm also equally a founder of an app and equally a very present brother today. And so
Yes.
to be there, to show up for my sister, means more to me than probably to her, just to live up to who I think I want to be. And so these are the things that I like to journal on. And yeah, it's really helped me. It's helped me feel grounded. So if you're listening to this, you know, you can start there. If you're curious about what all this inspiration that I've talked about, how does that manifest into something, a product out there? I'm sure John will link it down below. I'll
Yes.
also send you actually a link for 50% off if you come through. I'd love to hear feedback. We're constantly iterating on the app based on the feedback of our users, and I've learned so much. I've learned
Yeah. Because
so much about really random things.
you're trying to get to people who are like, "Oh, I'm going to put this off," kind
Yeah,
of
which
reluctant.
is a tough crowd, which is a really tough crowd. But uh, I guess in
So
a
are you the
very
person sending out all those videos about this person got in an accident?
you know,
Have you seen those?
funny enough, we actually marked up a few ads of what we want to say in our meta ads, and then a friend or a neighbor at work, he showed me all these ads, and he swapped our logos, and he's
Okay.
like, "Hey, you sound exactly like everybody else.
Yeah.
Protect your loved ones, have peace of mind. Protect your loved one, have peace of mind." Everybody's saying the same thing. And so next week I'm testing out a new ad where you'll see my face and say, "Hey, I just lost my mom 7 months ago and the process sucked. If you want to make it suck less for the people you love, try out our app." It's
You know
right down
what?
below.
Um, so this podcast called Swift Kick in the Ass, it's a pretty memorable statement. Um, and one kind of that I fought honestly in the beginning, but it's always been about honesty and about honest truth and being the brutal honesty, maybe. It's hard to take sometimes, but people respond to that, and to people respond to honesty and truth. And if you're speaking from your heart, that even is more so. There are things that we relate to on a universal level, and we all have to face death in some way or another. Uh, Especially in this chaotic, time that we live in. A lot of people are facing death and trying to come to grips with it. Um, it does suck. It is no fun. And
Yeah.
when you're marketing, how do you market something that's no fun? I really shouldn't play names. I'm not going to mention names, but I had an episode recently. And it wasn't on estate planning, but it was kind of related. I won't even say what, but oh my God, it was so boring. I couldn't, I mean, it just didn't really connect with me. What you're doing connects a lot more because it's more about living. Um,
I
while you're healthy, while you can do these things, and you have choices before our strength goes away and we become weaker. It's just a product of aging, you know, before the floaters hit our eyes, and our bodies start to, fight, I mean, it's like you could get sad and down about it, but I'm 59 years old. I'm a second degree black belt in a mixed martial arts. I practice with my son who's 15. And I feel like I'm 35. I feel like I'm your age,
love it.
just a little bit older than you. It's I felt great, and I wouldn't trade it. I love my life, and I just want to love it more. Uh, and
We can
having that plan in place, it does put that takes that burden and that weight and that worry off your mind, and lets you focus on the here and now, which is
we can probably do a whole episode on parenthood, because that's it's something that's on my mind about where the world goes, how we're gonna raise kids who that's not gonna be entitled and confident and all these things. And my girlfriend's Ukrainian, so she's
Okay.
like a post-Soviet style,
Yes.
a little bit more, but she's very creative and freedom loving and expressive. And so yeah, we're definitely having a lot of conversations. And one of the things that the slight urgency of having kids is just, I want to make sure I'm healthy enough to, if whether I have a daughter or son in the future, to do these things.
Yes.
Maybe not martial arts, but I'd love to race a very fast go-kart down the track with my kid, So that's my motivation of staying healthy, really. That beyond, yeah, I don't even have kids yet, and I'm thinking about these things because I enjoy traveling with my parents so much. I just want
You know
to
what?
feel the same way
I,
in the
I,
future.
I think it's just natural. I thought about that too. I looked forward to getting married and having kids. And in fact, as I said, my name's a legacy. It's been handed down for over 200 years. I looked forward to having a son so I could pass down my name. Now, so he's either the eighth or the ninth. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I was going to say this earlier, but I didn't. Um, so I study genealogy. Obviously, I know about my heritage and so forth, but that has given me a very good understanding of myself and some of the ways I feel like I'm a very adventurous. Well, if you look at my ancestors, you'll see why I'm adventurous. I come from a very adventurous bunch, either sailors or settlers, or I mean, they they didn't just sit around. And so I'm from that. I'm a product of that. And so thankful for all
That
that
is so
they,
cool.
all that they did that helped me understand who I am. Um, so no, I get that, and I get that from you too, that you understand who you are. And that honestly, that's the best thing you can give the world, I think, is be the best version of yourself. And it'll all work out. I mean, you're providing a service to somebody that they need. That's that's good. They just don't. They just can't bring themselves to terms that they need it.
I
But
just
yeah,
got
so
to
be
keep
honest.
going out there and
Yeah,
meet
be
them
honest.
when they're ready.
Honestly, sometimes it's like all humor uh, has a dark truth to it. So maybe that's another way that you can do it. Address it in a humorous way, but that has a dark element to it. Um, get people thinking about it, and they'll be like, "Oh, you know what? I think I need to go to get that app." So just an idea, but I wish you all you know, I wish you all the best, and keep in touch. Let's give me an update. I want to hear how your journey's going.
Thanks for having me. It's great
Yeah,
talking. Time flew
yeah,
by.
yeah. It really did. It really did. But to my listeners, we're gonna wrap this up. Uh, Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Swift Kicking Ass. Please take the time to like and subscribe. I've got a lot planned. Holy crap. You talk about passion and following your dreams. I am about ready to take a step in a direction that I have been wanting to go for a very, very long time since I was a little boy. And I'm going to bring the world along with me on this one. I'm going to split off from the swift kick in the ass, but it's definitely be a part of it too as well. So I'll leave it vague because I don't have it in writing just yet. But stick around for new adventures. And this is Jer. Oh my gosh. I am like so bad. Jermaine. I want to call you Jeremy. I don't know why I want to call you Jeremy. That's what I had in my head. So Jermaine E, uh, thank you so much for being on the show. And we'll put links on the site and how to check out the app and the site and how to get a discount on the app. And just until next time, peace. Hope you got your ass moving. Until then, until the next time, I'm out of here. Peace.